So the most common situation that I encounter through the TennCom racket consultation service is league players who want a racket that makes winning matches a little easier. Now, I'm not saying that buying a new racket is going to make you win matches, but I do think that certain rackets make winning a little easier. So what makes a racket good for winning matches? Well, I think that you want the stiffest and most powerful racket that your game can control. I see way too many players using like PERCEPT 97Ds or Blade 1820s in search of more control. However, I think for most players that search is misguided. I think a lot of these players are seeing Nadal or Alcaraz just ripping the felt off every ball, and they think that trying your best to win means you hit every single ball at 100%. And basically, since nobody can hit every single shot at 100% with any kind of consistency or regularity, those players end up missing long or wide way too often. They're overhitting, they're spraying the balls over the fence. And when you do that, naturally the idea of a more control-oriented racket will enter your head. You think, oh, if I just had more control, I would have kept that ball in. Well, actually, if you just hit the ball at 70%, it probably would have gone in and you'd be able to hit way more of those shots in throughout a match because you're not even trying as hard. And at the rec level especially, most points are gonna end in errors, not wins. Your goal at all levels should be to keep as many balls in as possible if you want to win the match. And as you improve, your quality of ball is going to become more important, requiring more spin, more depth, more pace. But even at like a 5-0 or open level, most points are still going to end in errors, not winners. So here are the 5 best rackets for winning matches in 2024. And it's not because they're going to make you hit 6,000 winners per match. It's because they're going to help you find that one extra ball in the court. So number 1 is the Babolat Pure AERO 98. I think it's one of the most versatile attacking frames on the market. It elevates your rally ball, it adds plenty of spin to your driving ground strokes, giving you tons of margin over the net, which is really safe, but that extra spin makes sure the ball dives down before the baseline. This frame loves attacking tennis. It's one of my favorite rackets for that forehand approach shot, just driving it hard up the line. Knifing slices is really easy, and the best part about the 98 is you get so much forgiveness. The fact is, at the rec level, most of us are going to have D-tier movement. We're not always hitting the sweet spot. That's why we're rec players and not pros. The AERO 98 feels like it has 98 square inches of sweet spot, which is epic because it feels like you can hit a quality ball even if you haven't really set up properly. And the defense is so solid too. That extra forgiveness helps so much when it comes to finding that one extra ball over the net. And the insane stability goes such a long way against those big hitters. While the AERO 98 is marketed as like a spin racket, I think it lends itself really well to players with flatter strokes, more linear driving shots. It's really easy to take balls early and redirect pace or change direction on a dime. A big part of that is the twist weight on these frames is pretty high, meaning the torsional stability is excellent, but also the upper hoop is really stiff. So there's very little racket deformation through the swing. I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. Now for string setups, I recommend not going with anything too stiff. Even Alcaraz is suffering a little bit of arm fatigue with his Pure AERO 98, so I would be a little cautious. I really like restring sync for this racket if you're looking for control and feel. The string adds a nice level of ball connection to every shot, and there's no silicone coating that wears off in 30 minutes like you'd find with RPM Blast. And since this pattern is pretty open, string wear is a thing, so I do like that extra durability from sync. I also had great success with Tourmaline Wasabi. It's a great kind of more muted, softer all-arounder, good access to spin and impressive comfort considering the level of control that you get in that string. But if you're worried that the Pure AERO 98 is a little bit too stiff for your game, then I'd really recommend checking out the Headspeed MP. So I've been pretty tough on the Speed MP in previous generations, but I think the bump up to an average 330 swing weight through Tennis Warehouse makes this thing swing almost perfectly for the modern game. The open 16x19 pattern makes it really easy to like dig up low balls when you're on the run, helps you lift balls up with a little bit of a higher launch angle, and there's really easy access to spin to make sure that ball comes curling in the court. The higher swing weight means you can really crush balls from the baseline all day long, just blasting heavy topspin shots with a ton of margin. Power and safety is really where it's at with these speeds. The feel, I would say, is not exactly the best, but who cares? All that matters is that it feels good enough to tell you if you mishit it a little bit so you can be better on your next shot. And the Speed MP delivers. The good thing is there's just enough predictability from that super open string bed to deal with those heavy hitters, and the graphene reinforced upper hoop means there's just enough hoop stiffness to help you redirect pace. I've found this frame works especially well for players with like more Western grips and responds really well to both heavy topspin games and driving flat shots, kind of a la Sinner. I really liked Headlink's Tour in this frame. I think slightly stiffer and more consistent strings, more control-oriented strings are the way to go with the Speed MP. It really helps tame that super open pattern. For ultimate control, I would go with Grapple Snake Tour Sniper in the 130 gauge for a bit better durability. I think I would dial things down if you experience a bit of launchiness. But for all-out attack, for maximum spin, my buddy uses Restring 0 in his, and his kick serves are huge. They're like bouncing like 10 feet over my head. It's pretty crazy. I do want to elaborate a little bit on the importance of stiffness when it comes to rackets, because I think it's one of the few aspects that really increases both the power and control of any frame. So anytime the racket hoop deforms on ball contact, you're going to be losing energy. Instead of all that power from your shot being redirected back into the ball, you lose it in the flexing of the frame. This reduces both spin and power. This bending also creates a less predictable response, as different impact locations on the string bed and different incoming ball velocities are going to bend the frame differently. This is one of the reasons that I struggle to recommend rackets like Princess Phantom Line, the Wilson Clashes, and the Gravity MP for matches. All that flex kills the power and stability of the frame, and it makes redirecting shots like service returns a little bit too unpredictable for my taste. Now, if neither the AERO or the Speed MP can offer enough control for your needs, the lowest powered frame that I'd recommend if you want to prioritize match wins is the Slinko Whiteout 1820. I like this racket because you're going to get a lot more free power, spin, and stability than what's available from something like a Wilson Blade. You're going to get better and a more solid feel compared to like the Radical MP or even the Pro, and you're going to get a lot more maneuverability than you would get with the Gravity Pro. The 18x20 Whiteout is probably the most spin-friendly 18x20 frame that I've tried, and that 1820 still redirects pace and changes direction on flat shots up there with the best of them. It's my absolute favorite racket in the world on service returns because of that. It's just so easy to take that ball early, cut off angles, and you can really trust the flex of the frame to redirect that pace and the string pattern to shoot that ball exactly where you want it. Now, a big part of this is the 40T carbon up in the upper hoop. It really stiffens that top kind of sweet spot area and gives you just a huge amount of stability, especially considering that how thin this beam is at 21.7 millimeters. It just helps you like plow through those balls with ease. And on top of that, the customization is an absolute breeze thanks to the weight control modules, so you can swap out the butt caps, so you can really easy to just dial in the setup for whatever you need. So I've been using my Slinko Whiteouts for like a year now, and if you want to get my spec, this is what I do. I add lead at 12 until I get to a 330 swing weight. Then I put on a VT Advantech leather grip under here, and I throw in the 5-gram weight control module into the butt cap. And my favorite string, especially for matches, has been Grapple Snake Tour M8 125 in a full bed. It's really forgiving outside the sweet spot, but it's super predictable thanks to like a pretty conservative 8-sided smooth profile. I also had a really good success at the last tournament. We made the doubles final with Tour Sniper mains and restring sync crosses. Helps a little bit with durability with those crosses and opens up the string bed a bit more. If you prefer a more plush and muted hitting feel, then my #1 pick is going to be the PERCEPT 100 and also the 100D, so that's the 5th racket. I really think the 100 is the gem of the PERCEPT line. It's probably my favorite Yonex racket on sale. I do also really like the 95, but I think for matches, that extra 5 score inches is going to go such a long way to winning points. The hoop is noticeably wider than the 97, which increases both your forgiveness and boosts your spin window. That wider head means you can really swing up the back of the ball super aggressively, applying just huge topspin when you need it. But that said, I think the PERCEPTs play best for flatter hitters with cleaner driving strokes. Think like Carousel or Andre Agassi. The hitting feel is super clean, the sweet spot is absolutely massive, and it's easy to trust the frame, rip balls early, and block back tough shots. I'd go for the 100D if you're a more advanced, flatter hitter, and the 100 if you like to create a little bit more shape on the ball, get more height over the net with spin. Now these PERCEPTs, I like the slightly more muted feel on them, contrary to what Lucas says. So I would go for something a little bit softer, more muted to really accentuate that Yonex feel. For me, this means like Polytour Pro, Tourmaline, Caviar is a good substitute for PTP if you want something shaped, but that classic feel and a little better tension maintenance. And here I have Wasabi Red because I think it looks sick, played really well for me. Wasabi is a really good all-round, soft, comfortable string. Really easy for me to recommend in almost every racket, to be honest. Last up, I do quickly want to breeze through a couple honorable mentions because I know this is only like 4 rackets really, and there's more out there for sure, but I feel like the other ones that I really love are going to appeal to a little bit of a smaller audience because they have either weird specs or require some customization. Now my #1 honorable mention is the Pure Strike 98. This has been my favorite racket release of 2024. I love this racket, but I think the swing weight's going to be a little bit too high for a lot of players. A lot of these rackets are coming in over 330, which feels pretty heavy by the end of your 3-set match. The other one, which is kind of crazy, is the Boom MP. I know I hated the last Boom. Well, I didn't play with it that much, but I like this new Boom a lot. I feel like my ball speed noticeably increases with this thing. I love how there's a really low balance point and a low static weight. So like you can see, I've customized mine, and I think you kind of have to customize the Boom MP. That's the key to getting the most out of it. I have this one set up to a really similar spec to the Pure AERO 98, and it plays like a slightly faster, slightly more maneuverable, slightly more powerful, but a little bit less stable AERO 98, but there's so much you can do because of the customization options here. And then #3, an honorable mention, which is my favorite racket of the moment, and that is the Pure AERO Rafa 290. Mine has a 337 swing weight strung, hits huge balls, so much spin. I love this thing. I shouldn't talk about it too much more. Or else I'm going to want to play tennis. So those are my favorite rackets for winning matches in 2024. Now, if you're not quite sure which racket would work best for you, just leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you, give you a little bit of guidance in the comments section. And if you want to go more in depth one-on-one with me, I'll leave a link down below to my racket consultation service. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you.